All right, we are not live, though it says live. We're recording it. Well, that'd be a cruel joke. All right, here we go. One, two, one, two, three. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Podcast Juice. As you can see, I am here with the Jedi Council of Prince, people, associates, band member, people talking shit, all
Yeah,
that. We
yeah,
are
we
here
all
in the
here.
building.
Yes, I'm a
So
couple of them.
we're going to get right into this. This is going to be sort of like a round table conversation. Let me first just say, you see, we have Duane Tudahl here, friend of the show. You know, you've read his books. We got Big Sexy and Sack, Voice of Reason, we like to say here. And of course, we have Mr. Michael Bland, which is like down there. So they're over there. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm pretty good.
All right. So
Yeah,
we all here, we all, I guess it's safe to say we're friends, associates to some degree in terms of just talking online and different things that we
yeah,
like about Prince. This idea of this particular conversation came from, I believe, Michael Bland.
yeah. That's me.
And the thing that we're going to be talking about today is, was Prince, and he may have been all these things, but was he a pop star or was he more of an indie artist? And there's a lot in the middle of that. But, I wanted to just kind of get to the idea of like, where did this come from? And it's a great place to start. So, Michael Blank, Michael B,
Yeah. Okay.
please.
Yeah. I was binge watching the Once Upon a Time in Minneapolis series on
Shout out to those guys. Yeah.
YouTube, which is fascinating for me to hear everybody telling the stories in their own words is pretty ingenious.
Mm.
And also, they got a lot of sound clips of Prince, from different interviews that I didn't even know existed. But
Wow.
as they started talking about uh, the process of him crossing over, like I pretty much would be like 1999, I think, is the flashpoint of him going, I'm going to turn up the juice. Now I'm gonna, I'm stepping it up. I think as Matt Fink said something about he came in. Well, somebody brought the purple jacket in, like with the silver on the shoulder, and it was like, oh, show business. Okay, this is where we're going. Like that was the signpost for the band. Like, okay, we're no longer going to be this, sort of underground gritty thing, playing to just the people who know about us. Like we're going to expand. And the fact that he could even choose to do that at will, to me, like just to make the conscious decision. Okay, I've played offense long enough, or I've played defense long enough. He was protecting something that he had built, but once he decided to make it accessible to the world, like it was a completely different plan. During those middle years, it's like, okay, the band is, there's a lightening of the band. The sound is decidedly, more palpable to like pop and rock radio.
Hmm.
You know, all that plucking and funking, he took a breather on that. You know,
Plucking and funking. I like
uh, so it's when you try to compare Prince to any of his so-called peers, it's like I was saying to Duane, it's like comparing grapefruits to fire engines. It's
that.
He didn't run the same pattern they ran. He did his own thing for the better part of 10 years, and Warner Brothers just kept saying, "Sure, Prince, no problem." Shelling that money out. Who else could you even name that had that kind of artistic freedom and that and coupled with that level of success? It's so I it the thought came to mind, like, well, he wasn't an average pop star. Maybe he really wasn't a pop star at all. Maybe he was the biggest indie artist in the history of the world. you
Hmm.
know and so I've been grappling with that when I have time to grapple. And so I thought I'd take it to the street. take it to y'all
Take it to the street.
and see.
I am the street.
Yeah, Duane Tudahl is he's the most he's the streetest of all of us.
I'm very street.
Taking it to the street.
That's right. You don't know me, but I'm your brother.
Yeah.
I'm just joking around. I know Duane. Now I know Duane.
Yes.
Duane and I might as well be family.
Right.
So
That's funny.
anyway, that's the question. I'm
Okay.
putting to the Genius Club, the panel. So does anybody agree with me, or does anybody disagree, or is it
Let me
yes?
throw it
to
down.
both.
My philosophy on Prince has always been that, like you said, the first several years where he's a rebel. I mean, completely like learning on somebody else's dime, which is the way you want to do it, is somebody else paying for that. And then 1999 came around and he upped the game and said, I'm going to make this bigger. I don't think he was trying not to be popular, but it was definitely a different Prince with Dirty Mind and stuff like this until Controversy. And then Purple Rain, or 1999, he went up, and like you said, for probably about 10 years, maybe 12, till 92, 94, 96-ish, which you were around then. And then it switched once he left Warner Brothers back to being a rebel. So he went from being rebel to pop, this huge iconic guy. And with some struggles in the 90s a little bit, but then became a rebel again. Once he left Warner Brothers, he was back to being that indie thing, which I think is what he wanted to do originally. Not having Warner Brothers telling him, and then again, none of these guys could really tell him anything for the most part. They would tell him, here's the playground you got to play in a little bit. But I think for the most part, he was able to say, that's fine, I'm going to do this. Even when they said on Sign of the Times, we want this to be instead of a 2-album set, we want it to be or a 3-album set, we want to be a 2-album set. Just take these songs and condense. He said, okay. And then he records another song. He's like, you're not even going to listen to him. Okay, I'll do it, but I'm going to do it on my terms. And I think that's what he did, throughout. I mean, whether it was you were with him, he would go on tours. He'd announce and say, I'm just going to show up in town.
Can we define what would be the rebel versus what would be, I guess, the pop star? That might
can do
help
that.
us sort of define. Go ahead.
I can do that very simply. In his rebel phase, it's all about his art on his terms. You know that when you do things on your terms, you're going to sacrifice some of the lucrative nature of this business. Now, I'm sure Prince at some point was looking on the outside looking in, saying, hey, all these top 40 cats are making all this money, all these appearances. Let me go on solid gold. Let me do things like that. And so he would do things like that. And the downside of that is, and Michael, you please weigh in on this. The downside of that is you lose your creativity, you lose your spontaneity, because when you're on tour, like the Purple Rain tour is a perfect example, you are locked into that set list. Because I saw 2 shows on that tour. One show he threw in America, next show he took it back out. The show was, again, you can't do that. So when Michael D and I talked about this in later years, back when he was being a rebel, there were 2 types of shows. When he do the arena show, that's for the set list people, or is locked in for the general consensus pop crowd. When he does the club shows, that's for us. Because when I go to the club shows, I get people run up on me. Hey, what song is that? Get out. Get out. You don't need to be here.
Yeah, if you don't know it, yeah.
You don't need to be here. So that's a trade-off, because a lot of groups, and I'm not ripping anybody yet, but when you see like a Michael Jackson, you know what you're going to get.
Right.
You're going to get those songs. And at this particular juncture, with the Stones, you know what you're going to get. Yeah. Springsteen, same thing. Prince is like, I can't do this. I can't do the same shit every night.
I think he worked against that. I think
exactly.
You're right. He actually see this is the way to go to get that. And he said, he's a contrarian, and he would just go the other way. And you'd say, no, I'm not going to do that. Just sounds interesting. That's for those guys.
Yeah, I can verify BigSexy. Actually, as a matter of fact, I remember him saying to me one day that he said that the Purple Rain tour was a very confining experience. He said, everybody, most of those people who came to see me saw, Madonna the week before, Phil Collins the month before. It's like those were not necessarily my people. It was just like the circus came to town and everybody goes. And what else? He said something about, he said, you don't know what it's like to have to play the same guitar solo 96 times in a row.
There it
He's
is.
like, I was stuck to the script. After people saw the movie, it was a script. It was, he's like, you change one thing, somebody has a complaint about it.
Yeah.
So, no wonder. But then I heard, on the Once Upon a Time in Minneapolis interview, somebody in the Revolution saying, how long did you think the Purple Rain tour went? 5 months, 6 months?
Yeah, that's it.
He didn't go to Europe.
Nope.
He didn't go to Japan. He
Nope.
didn't go. He was already conceiving and working on like Under the Cherry Moon, like while he was on the Purple Rain tour.
Yeah.
Around the World in a Day was finished at the end of that tour. I asked him, I said, "How come you released it so soon?" He said, "Because it was done."
Let me ask you guys this question, and I agree with everything said so far myself. That Purple Rain move, him pulling that, and I guess we're saying that would be the act of a rebel. But I wonder, in his, if let's say when he went independent totally with Emancipation, if Emancipation had started to sell like Purple Rain did, do you think he would have been a rebel? Like, okay, the same circumstances, I'm getting tired of playing Emancipation in America on tour. He wouldn't take that like internationally and play it like a pop star?
I don't know. I just think that he didn't do things like everybody else did. I mean, we all know that. I think it's hard to predict.
Well, I'm saying I bring it up in the sense to say, because at this point now he's running a business,
right?
He's not on somebody else's dime, right? So like when Emancipation, he was on every show.
Right.
Well, yeah,
what everybody
I remember
did,
that.
right?
Yeah, I remember seeing it and being mad that he didn't do that with us. During the years before, I'm like, okay, now, you want to play the Essence? You're a black artist now. You're gonna play the Essence Festival,
right?
He was trying to leave that rebel phase for another hot minute. When he came out with Emancipation, I remember when History came out, MJ.
Right.
Okay.
And we were in Prince's office, and he had read in like Billboard magazine or something that SoundScan was counting that one compilation as 2 discs, like 2 records. And I don't want to say that it was this simplistic, but I know that he got the idea that now I should be able to do 3 CDs.
Interesting.
And
he said that in an interview. He actually said that somewhere.
Okay.
I don't remember where, but yeah. So yeah, you're right.
That'd be a rare, transparent moment for him if he actually said it. But what I wanted to say or add is that I do remember part of the negotiation around Diamonds and Pearls was that Warner Brothers got to pick the singles. He laid back and said, "Okay, fine," and because he was ready to play ball, like he knew how to bargain when it was time to come up. So
okay, and that's what I was asking. I mean, I think he was kind of both, because he was very much a shrewd, if I'm saying the word right, a businessman when it came to. I feel like when he sort of understood the stakes of, I'm not just going to be the artist here. I'm going to be sitting at the table too. I have my own business.
He was always able. Yeah, he was always, I think, but the fact that he was just able to decide, okay, now I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm sick of that.
Right.
Back down into Round the World in a Day, which has nothing to do with Purple Rain at all. The sound, the approach, okay, I'm going to put out another movie, and I'm going to direct it. I'm going to do it's he has these places in his career where he decides, I'm going to align my mind with, popular culture for a while. I'll get the payoff. I'll introduce some new music into the world, make the people happy, let them come out, and then he'd go back to challenging everyone. And what other artist in history has even that?
Right.
Could flex like that? Other than Miles Davis. I mean,
right.
Okay.
Right. You'd mentioned if Emancipation went big and he was able to do it, I think that would have confirmed to him that he's doing the right thing. And he would have kept doing the crazy stuff, because he would have said, "See, I told you, this is the way it works." Well, and I think it would have just made him more of an indie guy, because he said, my indie thing, whether it was the most beautiful girl in the world, which went
I was
great.
going to say exactly that was him going to Warner Brothers. See, if you released my music when it was current, then we could all make a little more money. And they refused to accept that theory and instead let him try, promoting a single on his own, so on and so forth. And like I keep saying, what could you think Lionel Richie just did it when he felt like it? You think Madonna just did it when well, now I'm just going to shock the world.
Right.
Well, she did in other ways, but not musically.
Well, and, I think some of those other artists you mentioned too, they're sort of, as I like to say, so clicked into the industry, they doesn't have no reason to do something like that. Like, if the money's coming that hard, why change that, right?
Well, I mean, but look at how much money Prince left on the table just not touring Purple Rain properly.
Every time.
You can't say he was motivated by money,
right?
But he knew when he needed to cash in.
But he'd also made such bank on Purple Rain. He had the ability. He had a large
to do whatever you want to do,
room to play.
Sure,
so that helped him a lot. I mean, I think
he was
able to capitalize on that for years.
Well, yeah, the movie is any movie is a shot in the dark. You either people like it or they don't. You can't make them like it. So he did have whatever that was on his side at that time.
After Purple Rain, I mean, Purple Rain, he could kind of do what he wanted to a certain extent, even though he still had the bosses telling him, this is the direction you have to go in, and these are the times you have to get this album out. And I think when he was away, his music may not have been as popular after Warner Brothers, but I think there's still some good stuff in there. I'd love to see a greatest hits of the post Warner Brothers stuff personally. I think
well, they don't want to see that.
They do. They did some compilations. The 90s compilations.
They might have gotten around to it, but as far as I know.
Let me ask you guys this. There's sort of going off of that. Was he doing these rebel moments early on? Like, when I say rebel moments, I'm like the Black Album or something like, I'm not putting that out. Versus later. Like, I'll take it from Emancipation moving forward. Was he doing these what were the rebel moments at that point that you can kind of hallmark?
I have an idea.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Duane.
No, go ahead. I was going to say.
Okay. The biggest Mickey he slipped in the business in the 2000s and the aughts to me was the Musicology tour, where that was a 1-2 punch.
Putting it on the seats. Yeah. Putting the CD out there.
Yeah, that's craziness.
Yeah.
So
let me float this as a premise to Dean's question here. When you're a rebel, you're kind of positioned as an underdog as well. And so, and this has been a pet peeve of mine for years, when you look back at the best album for 88, look at everybody else who was a contender and you see Sign of the Times. The one thing Prince didn't have was a superstar gang behind him involved in his production. You look at Whitney Houston, she had a gang of people. Michael had Quincy and the Machine. The Dolly Parton, Emmylou Harris, Linda Ronstadt thing, that's a superstar thing right there. U2 had the whole Daniel Lanois and Steve Lillywhite doing their album. And in this corner, we got Prince doing my thing with no band, by the way, because he broke up the revolution. It's just me. So I'm thinking, he's thinking, look, I'm in the room now. Let my art stand where it's going to be, when it really wasn't like that, because, Michael Dean pointed out to me, the label didn't really get out there and get the For Your Consideration stuff out. Nobody really supported that. I got my latest Billboard magazine. It's this thick, and it's nothing but listen to me, vote for us, and no one really got the label, that is, didn't really get behind Prince like that. And Prince, to his credit or discredit, didn't play that game either. You didn't see him during that time. He didn't tour Sign of the Times. And that's probably why he didn't win.
Right. That's true. And I think during Love Sexy, he realized he had to do that because he was in Europe when the album wasn't selling that great. And he was like yelling, "Get me back there, or get me to America again," or whatever it was. I forget the path, but he was like not happy that the album wasn't selling. So because he wasn't playing the game, he wasn't a game player like that. You're right. He didn't have a team. I think when Michael Jackson says he's going to come out with an album, there's a 2-year plan for what
Yeah.
to do with the album. And I think Prince is like, I've got a week here, and we'll work from there. They map out the tour, but nothing else. And the tour, like Michael said, is shorter. 5-6 months for Purple Rain, biggest album of his career, and he only played 1 or 2 shows outside the country in Canada, and that's it.
Yeah,
See, that's the question though. I asked: is that really being a rebel, or is that just somebody that not really being business savvy?
I don't
is there
think
anybody else did that? You'd be questioning, like, what the hell are you doing? You're like, if it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that there are many moments in Prince's career where he cut off his nose to spite his face. I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Yeah.
But I think
I'm just questioning: is that what we calling a rebel?
Well,
you see what I'm saying?
What is a rebel? Is it someone who
that's what I was trying to
who listens to their heart rather than allowing their circumstances to govern how they move through the world?
I think it's one of the few times that Michael and Prince had the same rebel nature, because Michael, if you look at the Bad tour, went everywhere, including Togo.
That's right.
Whereas Victory didn't go a lot of places. Michael's like, look, let's just do Victory, and I'm going home. Fuck y'all. And then he took Bad and went everywhere with it.
Yeah, but getting back with your family, it almost invariably means there's going to be more drama than you want to deal with. Yeah,
yes,
you can say that about anybody.
Marlon, how many
Marlon? He's that torch for
right. Marlon keeps eating all my green M&Ms. I'm sick of it.
That Marlon move, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, you're doing the Marlon. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. But I guess that's the thing. You have to define what are you being if you're being rebellious, or what is the definition of being a rebel?
Rebel, yeah.
But I think just in the choosing making the unpopular choice, I think is part of it. And I think that so many times Prince did that. I mean, it's my understanding that he was going to be dropped after Dirty Mind, and I think realizing that could be his last record, he just pulled out all the stops, and everything about that record says, okay, if this is my last chance to say what I need to say to the world, this is it. He went, totally stripped down.
Yeah.
And, I understand it probably being one of the least selling records of his whole collection, but that is the defining moment to me,
right,
where he just decided, I'd rather live free.
Right.
Gotcha. And is this, and we also, I think the other argument was, or point to say, he was an indie artist as well to being versus a pop, which I would say, my personal opinion, I think he was both. I think he understood the indie thing, but I think he also understood that, and I believe he thought he was a superstar, and that he acted according to that, even with some of the albums, even when realizing, like with Diamonds and Pearls, in my opinion, that album is listen, I need to get back at the top of these charts. I'm gonna make this music so it's more accessible to everybody, and it's not just all, craziness,
but ironically,
and coming with hits. But go ahead.
Yes, but ironically also, then you saw the browning of the band.
Absolutely. Which I think makes sense though at that time for Princess. Well, being that I think his image was kind of seen as if
he was
had a lot of white people.
Is what was happening.
Right, but I'm saying, think about the time that came out, and hip hop was good. To have a black band wouldn't be like, yeah, you better
that's
have
fair.
some black folks on.
I see that, but it's. I mean, but again, I guess Batman was a huge success.
Yeah.
So
but not necessarily because of Prince.
Exactly. He was yes, because of Batman. I mean, they said people had been waiting for that movie to be made for like 15 years or something like that. So it was a built up, phenomenon in Hollywood. They were always planning it. Again, he was not responsible, but it was a nice little payday for him, So he goes into exactly. Okay, I've got this image. Like I've broken through again. Party man, scandalous. Made all the videos and so on and so forth. And then he turns around and says, "Well, no, I think I'll make another movie." You know,
Mm.
why?
A rebel move, right?
That's a rebel
That was a
move.
rebel script. Boy, that
And
script was
cutting off
rebel.
his nose.
And
Jesus
you know,
Christ.
I actually had a copy of the original script for Graffiti Bridge. It's not so bad. You know, it's viable. I think the problem came in when one of the problems that I understand now is that Kim Basinger was a writer on it, and when she left, she took all of her great ideas.
Oh.
Interesting.
Oh.
But the fact that it saw a lot of action, a lot of people got in and out, you know,
Right.
and also I remember him flying from London to California to edit it, like a few
tour?
days out of the
On the
week
tour?
he was on the tour. Yes.
Wow. That's crazy.
Well, we did. That was the nude tour, and there was 18 sold out shows at Wembley Arena, and
Wow.
that meant that during that time, certain days off were choreographed. They were grouped, you know, and he would take those days and fly back to the States, edit, and then come back out on tour.
Wow.
You know, yeah. So I
As
mean,
well as recording in the studio.
yeah, we managed to work on more new music also. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's. I think you can. I think to me, what made him a rebel was just the fact that he basically made the establishment, you know, do his bidding. You know,
his manager said that after he won the Oscar for Purple Rain, they were basically messengers. Nothing they would say made any sort of dent in what he did. And I think it's probably like that with Warner Brothers to a certain extent. And like you said, or Michael Dean said, that once he wanted to do Diamonds and Pearls, he knew, okay, I can do this stuff. I'll do it and show you that I can. So I, kind of bringing it all back. And I think that, and it did. And then that was what set him up for the better contract with Warner Brothers. But again, trying to do it on his terms,
Yeah. Which his manager advised him not to.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then he complained about it after he signed it. So again, he wanted to be this indie guy, wanted to have that, and then he said, "Okay, I'll take these golden handcuffs." And then he's like, "Oh," and then he complained about the golden handcuffs for the next 3 or 4 years. So yeah. I mean,
you read my mind, Duane. I was going to say golden handcuffs.
There you are.
Yeah.
And then the name change. That's obviously a rebel move for sure.
Yeah.
But see, now looking back, though, the name change and the whole slave on the face really brought light to the inequities of a lot of these contracts.
Yeah.
At the time, people thought he's nuts. But then when you look into it deeper, it's like, hold on a minute. Something's not right here. Why? I mean, I don't know who said this, but the best example is I'm going to loan you money to build a house. Okay, fine. You build the house. Oh, by the way, the house belongs to me. What the fuck? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you start looking historically, Willie Dixon, you could name all kinds of artists that had that kind of, got screwed over. And Prince, I think, used his clout to bring a light on that stuff and to rectify a lot of this stuff.
It's funny because as I go further and further into the music industry, I look back and I've read so much. I've learned so much about, again, this is my phrase for the day, the inequities of this business. It could be any genre. Someone is getting fucked, period. It can be bluegrass. It can be classical. It can be techno. The label is going to get you. And Prince shed light on that.
The guy with the gold makes the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. Nothing. I mean, I'm trying to be careful not to. I'm trying to give everybody else a chance to talk.
Oh, no. Get in there, Mike. Get in there. Come on, Mike.
No, I don't know. It's another thing that I think a lot of people didn't realize was that I don't think as far as I know, he never took money up front to go on tour. Like he always came out of his own pocket, like at least in the States. When we toured the States, as I understood it, there's little to no sponsorship. You know,
That's true. I guess that makes sense. The Stones got sponsorship. They were smart. I mean, like that. Yeah, it makes sense.
but I
Wow.
mean, again, that's speaking to his, you know,
Yeah.
sort of rugged individualism and the spirit of I don't want anybody telling me what to do.
And that way he could stop the tour when we wanted to stop the tour. He could change it and do. That's right. That makes sense. He wouldn't have a contractual obligation to stick with that.
Yeah. In
I
Europe,
don't
I think it was different, but yeah.
If you were asking for the definition of rebel earlier, rebel to me is following your own instincts and follow. And even if other people say this is the table of gold, all you have to do is lean in and you can grab it. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna lean the other way. That to me is a rebel, is somebody who doesn't care about the consequences, does what they want to do. And I think that you can look at a lot of his career and see that. You know, who would have thought doing the album after Diamonds and Pearls, which is a huge album, to go and do, I'll do the Symbol album and do this whole story about, and you're going, wait. And I like the album, but it's like, what? Each one was a zigzag, and he would make the decision to zigzag on purpose.
I think he just was the type of person who got bored quick.
Yeah.
And he just
yeah, absolutely.
Always looking to change everything.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree with that. That's why I agree with most of what we call rebel is that to me, like just that impatient. I got so many things coming to my head. I got to get them out. I don't know if that's necessarily to say that he was rebelling against something. That's just the way he operated about things. It seemed like, but
my guess. I'm sorry. I know you're. Michael,
go, Duane, go.
You're my E.F. Hutton, and I do want to hear what you're saying. But I don't even remember what I was going to say. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh no, I think that I mean, you were talking about the trajectory earlier, Michael Dean. Like, well, where did he start? Where did he seem to be? I think in his foray into the music business, I think he tried to establish from the very get-go, that I'm going to produce, I'm going to write, I'm going to arrange, I'm going to, perform this music mostly by myself. Like that was the plan from the get-go. Right. I think it just didn't really work as well in the beginning, probably partly because he was trying to fit in somehow. I think
what do you mean
well, he himself said that a big influence when he started making records, he was thinking of Stevie Wonder was on his mind a lot.
Okay, gotcha.
And Stevie is, that's just pure. It's just pure music. It's pure pop to me. I mean, he had funky moments, but and he had times when he spoke to issues that were not popular. But I have to believe that Stevie was really following his heart. He had a different trajectory, different path. But Prince wanted that kind of control over his vision, which is why he just if I see the world I want to live in, now I'm going to build it.
Right.
And I think that it resembled things that existed already in many ways.
James
I felt
Brown
like, but even earlier than that, I mean, it's like the impression I got on For You was that he had been listening to like the Emotions, and like I know that Maurice White was considered also a peer to him. And that didn't somebody try to? They're like, well, maybe we should have Maurice, produce, help produce, co-produce. And he was like, no, because he didn't want to be marginalized or pigeonholed, And I think he found solace in confusion where a lot of artists could not. Like he was comfortable with the idea of having people guess. Well, what am I looking at? Who is this? Who is this person? He used the mystery to his advantage, I think.
Oh, I love that phrase. He's solace in chaos. That to me makes so much sense. Is the idea that he would do this. I mean, when he first started with Warner Brothers, he said, "I don't want to be Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do not bring me Maurice White." He said, "I don't want to be seen as a black artist. I just
don't make me black.
I just want to do what I do." And I think that he, like I said, didn't want to be pigeonholed, and so that's why he could do Dirty Mind, Controversy, 1999, all very different. And each tour on top of that was very different. Each tour of each one of these things, you know, totally different. So yeah, he would just zigzag as he wanted, you know, wherever he was thinking on Monday. He might not want that on Tuesday, but
Mhm.
you know, he's got to make a plan at some point.
You said something very interesting, Mike. I got to call it back to that because, and I remember hearing Prince saying these things like, "Yeah, I don't want to, don't call me that fan." I don't know if he actually said, "I don't want to be seen as black," but I interpret that's sort of the intention of, I don't want you to market me or put me in the box that you put black artists.
Yeah. And what's weird is that at that time, I think that Warner Brothers had a rather strong black A&R department. I mean, I think that it may have been a misstep on his part. He might have gotten stronger support, even though he may have not been able to bend it, you know, in his direction, like have his way with it. But he might have had more, you know, a bigger impact sooner. I'm not
That's
sure.
an interesting thought. Yeah, that's interesting thought because the whole don't want to be pigeonholed and want to be crossover move that was going on at that time. It's interesting that later in his career, like when you guys come into the picture, that's not the thought. Like, no, I want to be seen as a black artist.
Well, I mean,
you know, the Black Album, right? Is that the intention? Like, no, they think I'm not funky no more. You know, I'm going to be seen as a. So I wonder, was that a smart move to him? He comes running back to that anyway.
Well, you know, that's a good question, and I only sort of realized it in hindsight. I didn't realize it as it was happening. As I was, you know, when I was involved, I couldn't see it. Well, no, I kind of could, because I remember the fact that we did Jack the Rapper in Atlanta.
Okay.
That was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, this is Prince going back to his people saying, "I'm back. Did you miss me?" You know, and you know, get off.
But he,
you know,
he would go back and forth. I think that was the time. That's what he wanted to do at that point. The next step was something different. I think that, you know, each time would be a little bit different of what he wanted, and so I just think he didn't want to be pigeonholed at all. My guess is,
yeah,
you know,
he wanted the freedom to do and whatever he wanted and move through the business as he saw fit.
And go ahead.
Sorry.
I was going to say another thing to Duane's point. He didn't want to be pigeonholed to Prince at a certain point.
Right.
Like,
yeah, right.
I'm off of that. I don't even want to do what
I don't even want to be me.
It's going to be a symbol.
When you think about it, if you look at the difference between the second album and Dirty Mind,
oh yeah,
they're night and day.
Oh yeah,
you know, and if you had pigeonholed him into the R&B blacks marketing, no way they're going to promote Dirty Mind. No way.
Yeah, you're right. But at the time, that was going to be his last work, so they were going to. It may have gotten shelved. You know, who knows? Yeah. Had it been left to the devices of the Black A&R department at Warner's, but instead, you know, the very guy he fell out with Warner Brothers over was the guy who defended him at that time and said, you know, this is an artist who's going to be very relevant in the future. Mo Austin was like, no, we're not going to sack him. We're going to give him another shot at this.
We see long-term plans with this guy, right?
Yeah,
right.
No. So, was the Dirty Mind album was that wasn't marketed as a crossover project at the time, was it?
No, but I think
new wave than
it just sort of kind of
it was enormous new wave.
Yeah. I don't think that I don't even think that that was his attempt at crossing over.
No,
I really think it didn't happen until 1999.
Right.
I really think that's. I mean, I think he had reached the point where he needed to lay it all out. Like, I have the blueprint, and he accepted. He had a little help from, you know, the surrounding cast from Dez and Jill Jones and Lisa, and you know. But if I'm not mistaken, Fink said he didn't hear 1999 until it was finished.
Probably.
Mostly it was his brainchild and his juggernaut. Like, this is the ship I'm going to, you know, ride into mainstream America.
Right. And I would argue that actually, for me personally, the Time's second album was a bigger smash
deal. Yes.
In terms of, you know, of course they had the big crossover singles in 1999, but there's a reason why, not just because they're dope musicians, that when the Time is playing, the response from the crowd is not only because they are dope, but that music is infectious, and it's just you can't go wrong with them songs at that time. Like I just feel like that was a bigger, that was his black shit. Like if
yes,
you know what I mean.
But it's also a simpler message. It's familiar presentation.
Yeah,
it's not. I think even
it's not groundbreaking or anything like that.
It was calculated. He was like, okay, the funk will live on with the time. I got to move towards the center,
right?
And it's what's that line in My Name Is Prince? I got two sides and they're both friends. Yeah. It's the same. It's the same difference,
right? And that taking that sort of rebel move though was there's consequences of that. What shit? Sure. That shit can be more popular than me.
He sacrificed.
How do I deal with? They're gonna take the thunder from me. I got to turn them off.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think of the time as a crossover band.
Well, no, I'm not saying they're not. They're not. I'm just saying in terms of take away the mainstream attention to it. Mm-hmm. I could probably have seen the time may have eclipsed him a little bit if you took away the major label funding and just let it stand on their own, because they wasn't promoting the time like that, right? This shit was just hitting, and they was just hitting because they was the shit, right? And the songs were the shit. Matt, that's what I'm saying. Like he even saw that, right? Like I still have Warner Brothers pushing me and all this, but these niggas is damn near blowing me out.
Yeah, but that was
damn near.
I mean, they weren't out. I don't know if they were outselling him though.
No.
I don't. Again, if they're not being marketed like that, they shouldn't be.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that even that was a calculated move, and also when he didn't let them play on either coast, because he knew the press would eat him alive.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that that was probably a bigger thing than what he was doing.
It's all him. Monster. Yeah, it's Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein's monster, right. And I think he probably could not predict how popular they were going to get. Mm-hmm. He probably had some sense of how good they were going to play because he was at a lot of their rehearsals. But I mean, then you take the Rage and put that on top of not being paid hardly anything and being the backup band of Vanity Six. Right. They had that heat. They were upset.
And the music was banging. That's what it wasn't a crossover. Mm-hmm. It was like that's what I'm saying. He chose to do the crossover thing, which was smart. But I just feel like he probably could have done anything to a degree if it was still as funky as what he could do, even without the crossover. Even putting them in the movie is almost a threat to him because even though he's the star, they're upstaging the movie.
Yes, but the tension is necessary.
Right. Oh no, I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm not. I'm just. These are addendums. I'm not. Yeah. We're not arguing. We both see.
I like that. These are addendums.
But but what it also speaks to is the truth of the fact that he really was he was going his own way. He knew what he was risking, but he didn't back down. Right. He was like, I'm going to be a pop artist now. Right. Whether it embarrasses me for a little while, and on the road maybe, but he did what he could to control that, but I think that again, it's like he didn't go, wow, they're really catching on. I need to rethink my strategy. He just,
no, but he does not abandon, in my opinion, sort of the thing that always works for him.
That's true.
And what I mean by that, so around the world in a day, that's just going, I'm really doing whatever I want to do. Mm-hmm. But then, and that has the success that it has. But coming back to the next project, they make sure that first single, I mean, you could call that crossover if you want, but that to me is a funky track that's going to work.
Which one?
We're not about Kiss. Yes. I'm not going to play no games for the lead off because this is a business and they know me for a certain sound. I'm going to give them that sound. The rest of the album can flirt with bringing it out. But I always felt like the first singles from them projects, they weren't like, they still were rooted in the soul. That bag he doesn't say he doesn't want to be a part of. Those songs to me are still rooted in those. Alphabet Street is still rooted in those things. Mm-hmm. Get Off is obviously rooted in he always had the first song, no matter trying to be a crossover artist. He still was a pop star to understand that they expect a certain thing out of me, and I'm gonna give them that easy, no-brainer thing. The rest of the album, these singles may never do nothing, but that first one, there was. I'm bringing it up to say the point. He still was like a pop star, and he understood, like, yeah, I'm
Well,
not the
but
first single.
we
Can't be
understand.
that.
Well, okay, it's for the first time in a long time. I actually have some issues with what you're saying, Michael. D.
Please do.
Only because I because I had an inside track.
You're there.
I know what he thought about certain things, and what he told me was that the first time he heard Kiss on the radio, maybe it was When Doves Cry. It might have been When Doves Cry, which was that the leadoff single from
Purple Rain.
Purple Rain? I can't remember. Okay.
Yep.
You're a baby.
I was in high school.
Yeah,
I might have been in junior high.
Damn.
No. I graduated in '87, so no.
Okay.
Freshman, sophomore.
I was a freshman.
Yeah.
I was out. I was
Give me
20.
that Kevin Hart. Damn.
I was working on my law degree.
Lord. Go ahead, man.
Of his own, in his own estimation, when he heard it on the radio, he was like, "I made a huge mistake." And what I know about When Doves Cry is that at some point, it just became this bloated piece of work that had just too much going on. He walked in one day into the studio and just started muting instruments, just taking stuff out.
Okay.
Until he got down to the bare bones. And Levi told me one of the stories Prince told him was that one of the hardest decisions he ever had to make, in making in editing a track was removing the orchestra from When Doves Cry. He said he had spent $20,000. There's a whole orchestration.
My head's going,
Wow.
And
wow.
Prince told Levi he stood in front of the console, and was really like, "Am I gonna, just 20? That's 20 grand down the drain if I don't use." And he just muted the stereo tracks of the strings of the, it's like,
wow.
I mean, he followed his instincts, and he didn't really second guess. I think he believed in himself.
Right.
Is the simple truth of it, is that and I talked to Paul Peterson about this. Paul was there watching Prince make moves and put out stuff, on a consistent basis, and just say, "This is what's going to happen now," and win. Like, he just spoke it and made it so for a stretch of time, like in the mid '80s. Like, he couldn't.
Oh, well, he was untouchable.
Yeah, he couldn't make a mistake.
Yeah, right.
But I was going to say, as far as Kiss went, he said that his original idea about the song was that it was too strange for like, people would never, they wouldn't like it, they wouldn't get it. But when he went back to work on it after Maserati touched it, he found the pathway. Looked like when Brown Mark and then went to lunch and came back, and Prince had muted the bass, he had done this and that, put this guitar on, like, just took the track back over and was like, you can't have this.
I sometimes wonder whether he even knew what songs were going to be hits, because I look at some of his selections going, that doesn't make sense.
You're right. Yeah. He said to me, "I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm just going where the muse tells me to go."
Right.
That's
the rebel. That's the rebel.
I don't know what they want from me.
It's funny because
interesting.
Michael Dean was talking about the time. I think one of the things that made them, like you said, pretty hot was they were consistent
and accessible.
Yeah, exactly. And you knew the time album, this was going to sound like, they weren't all of a sudden going to become country or whatever it was, where you knew all of a sudden he's going to come out with an album of this. So you're kind of like going, I don't know where we're going. I'm aboard for the ride. I'll accept it. But there may be albums I go, yeah, I'll see you on the other side. But with the time, you kind of knew that you're going to get the walk, you're going to get the cool, you're going to get the stuff. Even when Pandemonium came out, which was a little more rock, it still had the funk, and it still was, Big Sexy leave us. He didn't like my point. Everybody's leaving.
Oh, what's going on? Oh my goodness, what happened? What the fuck? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will return after these messages. Oh shit!
We just start.
Yeah, what happened?
Okay, yeah. What?
Nobody likes me. Nobody
See,
likes me. It's
the
business.
man is trying to get
I
us.
was like,
see?
fuck all them. It's my opinion
Exactly.
only.
Man,
Finally.
That's so odd.
right where I want him on my thumb.
Oh, here,
We were
real-
talking about
real
the
quick.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. I have no idea what happened.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Duane was talking about the time and how
Before I was so rudely
consistent.
interrupted.
Yes, by the man.
The man.
Yeah. I would agree, but I also, around the time that I started hanging around, Prince had already tried working on a new record with the time.
Yeah.
And it had songs like I think it was
About corporate world. Out there?
yes, Corporate World.
Mhm.
Donald Trump Black version was already a part of that.
Interesting.
Was that with Murph Drag? Was
Murph
that the one
Drag.
too?
Murph Drag was on that record.
Summertime thing.
Some of that stuff came on.
Summertime thing
was on Graffiti Bridge.
Roller Skate. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I think that they couldn't come to I remember Levi wrestling with the idea, or said that they were, because Levi was in on a lot of that stuff.
Sure.
I watched Levi put together Release It in the studio in front of my eyes.
Wow.
Like he had sampled the Dave Garibaldi groove from Squib Cakes,
Right.
and he was messing with it on the sampler, and he just kind of freewheeled it, like he freehanded it, put the drum track down just using the sample, and he was talking to him. He did the same thing that Prince would do. Prince would work while holding a conversation with you. Levi is really incredible. He really doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. But then he picked up the bass, and Candy was still around at the time. She got on the track, but he was talking about the fact that Prince was at a real crossroads with the time, because it's like at some point you have to grow up from that.
Right.
You can't just keep wearing baggies and Stacey Adams and talk about no.
Don't tell Morris that.
Well, Prince could. He was like, it's got to go somewhere from here, and Morris was like, no, it don't. I'm gonna keep on being a pimp and a player, and if you don't want to be, that's cool, that's fine. But and that's when they pretty much commandeered the processor, took it back, and got Terry and Jimmy involved, Pandemonium, so on and so forth.
Right.
Jesse got to squeeze his tracks in there,
Right.
and I think it was a win-win for everybody. I think Corporate World just sort of fell apart and was probably never really meant. It was too duplicitous.
Right.
There was no common creative territory between Morris and Prince.
Right. Wow.
So they tried, but it didn't work out
Interesting.
that way. It morphed into something else, but and I think that actually I think Graffiti Bridge is a very strong record. I think the movie really slowed the momentum. Once the movie came out, it was like, I think it Thieves in the Temple was knocking, man.
Mhm.
The video was out. I think I could have sworn it had gone to number one. Yeah, doggone it, that movie could have been something. Could have been something else.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you say that, do you mean it was cut down to something else, or it was just shot into something else as opposed to what the script was?
Too many people had their hands on it. Too many cooks, I think that it started out as being meant to be one thing, and it just, through editing and time constraints and just all the changes it went through, it could have been a much more viable thing. I think it looks pretty cool, actually.
I have a question about that. When you say too many cooks, I'm almost wondering if it's the other way. I don't know who were the other cooks. because it's Prince was directing, wrote and starred, did all the music.
Yeah,
It was
but
no consulting anybody.
I'm talking about the genesis of the project, like of him getting. I mean, I feel like him and Ingrid worked on it together a little bit.
Right.
Him and Kim Basinger worked on it definitely together.
Yeah.
And didn't what's her name, Anna Fantastic, say something about having some sort of like there's
Madonna was
like everybody had something to say. Yeah, Madonna. I think it was just too many hands on it, too many the fingerprints and opinions and.
Again, that goes back to the rushing of things. He rushed to get this soon. He's the rebel. He said, I want this done. I want this done soon. I don't care. This is what I want. And using, going against the grain. Everybody says, you're going to make a film. You have to make a year-long plan. He's like, no, I want this done by the end of the month.
Right.
And we'll build the sets on here. I don't care if the other movie was realistic and had real sets and real places like First Avenue.
Sure. Yes.
Represent. But he had places like that, whereas this one just was like an imaginary fantasy world of it. And he said, "It's a build it here. We can shoot whenever we want. We'll do it quick and do it dirty."
Yeah, I agree with all that, Duane. I'm remembering a sound clip I heard of Prince saying that once he starts working on a song, it's like building a person, building a woman, and he said, "And once I begin." What's the word he used? Like he basically was like he gets so excited about seeing what she looks like when she walks through the door that that's why his process moves so quickly. Wow. It's like once I start, building this person or this thing in my mind, I get obsessed.
It's funny. I've always thought of that with every project he does. To me, his project.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Movies and I'm saying apply it on that.
Yeah, he's like in a relationship, and sometimes a relationship goes long term, and sometimes a relationship dies out quickly. And so he's got a lot of these things in his wake. He's like, yeah, you know what? This isn't the woman I thought it'd be. This isn't the project I thought it'd be. This is going to go aside. I may pick some pieces out later, but if he gets bored or everything, and it's again the rebel just saying, I know I said I was going to do this album. Screw that. I'm tired of that. I'm going to do something else. And I think that's interesting. I want to bring up something else that you guys mentioned earlier with Dirty Mind. You had talked about that being the last thing. What Dirty Mind to me was a shock album. It was like, I think he was still at that point where he had to shock people to get attention. And so Dirty Mind was, Sister and Head and things like this. You're going, that's so unlike, anybody out there at that moment.
Yeah. And anybody else would have tried to play it safe.
Yeah, exactly. And, especially like you said,
in hope that, this time it'll be,
I want to keep getting paid.
Right. The other thing I understood from talking to Prince, although somebody I spoke to who was in the camp disagreed, Prince said basically the Dirty Mind was taken from him before he could finish it.
It was demos.
Yeah. He said Steve Fargnoli took the demos without asking. And just kind of pushed it through.
Wow.
And I think about it, it's like, there's compared to the other two records,
it's raw.
There's not a lot of there's not a lot of like lead guitar. Right. There's not a lot of like real. It's a lot of rhythm, but it's not a lot of the bells and whistles are not there.
That's
and he's like, I didn't get a chance to finish it.
We did it at his home studio, and that makes sense, and that would make a lot of sense. They was just kind of putting the ideas together.
Yeah, and I guess Fargnoli was like, if you keep working on this, you're going to ruin it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And just, against Prince's will, just kind of submitted it.
This makes me think of something else, and this is to expand on this subject. When whether he was an indie artist, was he an indie record label? That was something I thought about, is because look at the artists that he had on there. He would come up with, he wanted to do Madhouse. Who would have thought, Madhouse would be interesting? He does it in 3 or 4 days and says, I want this out there. Whatever, but an indie record label, but he wasn't that successful with it.
Well, I think because he was uneven in some of his choices.
Right. Well, that's that, yes.
I'll say this. My understanding of I think the artist who had the best chance of going all the way was Tony Lamont.
Right.
And he was forced to remake his, I won't name names, but what I understand is that he finished his solo record, or thought he had. And well, I guess I can name names because he probably would say the same thing. Levi was involved in producing Tony Lamont's first record.
Right.
And Levi was like, man, you should have heard what we did with Tony. He said, man, that was some gypsy funk. You know, like it was a new thing. He would have beat Lenny to the punch, and it would have been more R&B than that, you know.
Interesting.
And it would have been funkier. But he said he played he worked on the record with Tony, and then he finally let Prince hear it, and Prince was like, "You're not putting this out."
Wow.
Like he was like, You're not gonna have me fighting my own, you know, my own imprint, you know." And they made Tony go back to the drawing board with with David Gamson from Scritti Politti.
Right.
And I think that the reality is that it probably was the best thing that could have happened.
You might know this answer because I got a question about this because this is something that always kind of got me. What was the big song with Tony Lamont that hit?
Higher Than High.
Higher Than High.
Sing that sounded like Sly Stone who came out with
like it, but also sounds like Love Sexy.
A little bit.
And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Who took it from the other one on that one?
Oh, well, I don't know if that was a conscious move. I mean, you could guess at it.
No, I mean, just consciously doing it. Just, you know, it's very similar.
It is. Compositionally, I agree.
Yeah.
But I don't know who wrote that song, but it sounds like it's based on a song called, is it called The Same Thing by Sly Stone?
Oh.
Same thing that make you laugh can make you cry.
Yeah, I know that song.
Same food you eat to live can make you die. It's based on that.
We're gonna get you in the studio, Mike. Your album coming out.
I don't know if you'll ever see that.
Down home.
I don't know. I can squawk out a few notes. I'm a decent background singer.
We'll do background for you. We'll do background.
Oh, y'all gonna be there's gonna be Michael Bland and the Pimps, Michael Day and the Pimps.
Yes.
Yes. But what I was gonna say is, with Tony Lamont, the sad part, other than the fact that he died in a motorcycle accident, was that he died in debt to Paisley Park for like $200,000 because he was forced to remake that record. Yes.
Wow.
He was never gonna get out from under that unless that record went like mega, you know.
Wow.
Like Prince sent him back to the drawing board, and he spent, you know, whatever money on top of, you know, what he had spent.
So he was doing like a major label.
Yeah, I mean, that's where he learned it from.
Exactly. Never the masters.
Put it on his tab.
Yeah. Anytime you know, Terry and Jimmy are accused of being shrewd, people say, "Well, where do you think they learned it from?" They learned it from Prince. You know.
Well, no, the same thing happened. Morris and Sheila both with the tours. They both ended their tours in debt. You know, Morris ended the Time stuff in debt, and Sheila ended the Purple Rain tour. Like, I forget how much she said, but I want to say it's $1 million, but I don't know if it's that much. But she says that she said in interviews, I was in debt. I didn't know that all the stuff I was ordering was not covered by the tour.
Oh, you know what? I did hear a sound clip of her saying that.
Yeah.
That it's like I kept ordering mink coats, and then it was like, okay, that's $80,000.
Somebody should have said it's just a lyric. Like, you ain't really balling. It ain't the glamorous like.
Yeah, so you want me to bring you the green one, bring me the black one, bring me the really?
Sure, right?
No problem. That'll be
put that on the tab. I don't think Morris actually had that cook, right? Like he was just
that's scratchy.
I think that's an actual dude. He was like mispronouncing an actual Italian chef's name. I saw something.
Really? There's a Scratchy or whatever his name is.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that too? Yeah.
I did see that.
That's a real dude.
I know that. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you were asked a question about the label.
The label. I mean, I think I heard Alan Lee say it's basically, you know, his impression was like, you know, okay, it's almost like a girlfriend label. Like, okay, I'm, you know, I think he said something like that. I don't know. I heard that. Yeah. But like that was just, you know, it's okay. I think Jill Jones's record is great.
Oh, it's great. There was some really good stuff on there, but there was other things where you just have one song on there on a thing. You're going 3 o'clock. Okay, good. There's not much on there besides that.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, when he had like Jill Jones, the Madhouse. What else was on there?
Well, Dale Bosio, that was kind of it was like, okay, for real.
I've never heard that one.
Song. Yeah,
I think her record was called Riot in English or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You also have Mavis though. Mavis.
Well,
good.
George
Clinton. George on there.
Yeah.
I wish he would have brought Ray Charles in for something like that. To me, it was like
wow.
I would love to have had him overseeing the Ray Charles album. Or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, now you know where he could have had a good relationship started with Ray Charles. I'm gonna go off the rails for a second.
That's okay.
If Prince would have just showed up at the We Are the World recording.
Oh, there's that.
Yeah,
He's right. He's right.
You know what though? I understand that he did spend some time with Ray Charles.
Okay.
Only because he said something one day about we were talking about just like the ways of old black men one day, like in rehearsal, just like the old man whistle with the extra vibrato on it, and just and Prince said something to the effect that he had Ray Charles in the studio, and Ray had a bottle of whatever his favorite alcohol was on top of the piano. And Prince went to move it, and Ray, I hate that, son. Wait a minute now. Like, he's like, I don't know if that old man might be able to see.
Hilarious.
He's like,
I moved his whiskey, and I hate that. Wait a minute now, Prince. Oh, now wait a minute now.
oh, that's great.
That's
great.
My goodness.
I think he ultimately got. I mean, Sonny told me like when he was a kid, he was like, he was calling it as he saw it then. Like, I'm gonna make a record with Mavis Staples. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
He did a lot of the things that he set out to do from a very early age.
Wow.
Like, I guess he, just that was how he felt about it. He could see it. I think he made a lot of things happen. He just sheer will.
Yeah.
But I think I asked him once. I said, "Did you ever try working with Sly Stone?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I invited Sly out to Paisley Park, and I tried, but the drugs had him. Like it's like he just."
Did he?
I'd ask him. Yeah, he said he showed up, but he's like, I asked him a simple question. He's like, well, do you want to, is this? And he said, Sly would just,
man,
like it he take minutes to answer. It's like, wow,
that's sad.
Yeah,
lost opportunity there.
Well, Jesse tried,
Jesse,
Yeah, he did.
Well, the ill thing about it, Sly is still here.
That's the craziness. Yeah.
Sly's
here. George is here. Little Richard just died not too long ago.
Stevie is still here.
Stevie's, oh man, that's going to tear me apart. If I'm still here and Stevie's not, I just don't know even how I'm going to handle it.
It's going to be a big hit. It's going to be
That's a big deal. He can't stay forever.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we got to appreciate these cats now.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
I made sure to tell Stevie I loved him at the XL Center. He was,
oh wow.
I mean, he was so gracious. He just, because he walked on the stage and, he's got his people, his handlers and whatnot, but he doesn't make them turn people away. It's like, I saw everybody talking to Stevie, and Stevie would just stand there and he'd listen, and he'd hug him, and we saw him going back to his dressing room, and I was just like, we love you, Stevie. I love you, man. He said something on his way down the stairs, but just the fact I was like, it's important that I say this to this person.
No, I got to interview him for a show I was producing, and he sat there for maybe 2 hours or so in a hotel room, and he's playing an instrument and just playing this for us. And we're just sitting there going, and he'd be, after a minute of playing things, he'd say, "Is everything okay?" And we're just like, "Yeah, Mr. Wonder." We're just sitting here enjoying it, serenading.
Wow.
But the guy's gracious, open, and very helpful with everything. So
I introduced my daughter, not personally, but just to the music of Stevie, and we watched some videos. This was last weekend, and we started from when he was little Stevie, and then there was some footage from he was on Sesame Street, so Gracie.
Oh
was
yeah.
like, oh wow. You
I
know,
saw it when I was a kid.
yeah. And then we ended the next video that just came playing was Say You Say, no, it was a Say Paul McCartney.
Mhm.
Michael
Oh
Jackson.
yeah.
And she's
Wait,
heavy
no,
into
no.
Michael. She's
That's-
heavy into Michael, right?
That's Paul McCartney.
Oh, okay. I see.
Well,
I'm following you. I
But
got you.
then the next video that played was We Are the World, right? So she's
Okay.
watching that, and she didn't call him Stevie Wonder. She just calls him Can't See, because I think she was just learning the whole concept of somebody being
right.
blind, right? So she
Yeah,
was
yeah.
kind of amazed by that. And she's like, oh, that's Can't See.
Wow.
And she was like, oh, that's Michael. And she's like, she looked at me and said, were they friends? And I was like, you know what? They probably were. I think they've done some stuff
Michael
together.
and Stevie.
Yeah.
That one picture.
Yeah.
You seen that
Well,
picture
the young Michael.
where Stevie's doing, Michael's like
learn.
looking like he's watching a sorcerer at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
love
all
it.
to say Stevie Wonder is fantastic.
I love that you're laying down some science for her, getting her. To
I'm
notice.
trying, man. Like, and
Thanks.
guys like that, kids got the thing is they've heard some of these songs in these kids' animated movies,
Right,
but they're
right.
just kidified. So when
Right.
I want her to be able to hear the original and see that as a person, like
Yeah.
like yo,
No, it's
that
good.
and he's blind. Just like what?
Yeah.
Set the foundation. No, it's
Yeah.
good.
No, that's funny. Sonny, when his kids were little, or actually when they were teenagers, you know, and the sampling thing was big.
Mm.
Sonny's kids would say, Sonny, you know, they called him Sonny.
what?
His kids call him Sonny.
Wow.
Did you hear this new track by so and so? And Sonny would be like, man, and he'd go into his record collection and pull out the actual record.
Right.
That ain't new. Hold on. He'd go, man, I'd go look through my vinyl and see, man, they ain't nothing. Check this out. So yeah, you have to teach the children.
Got it. Yeah, man.
They'll think some of this stuff, you know, is
They'd be like, oh, that was the Minion song. Like,
right.
no.
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 Yeah. No, my daughter saw Sing, and she was all. I had to explain to her that Sing 2 has Prince in it.
Right.
They explained to her.
Does it? I haven't seen.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, let's go crazy.
My
Yeah.
kids are too old for that.
Yeah. See, I got a 13-year-old. She's just right there. She's right there.
Got it.
And I got to rein her in and make sure she likes the right stuff, you know. But I got to also let her learn and expand and like get her taste.
Yes.
On the Stevie Wonder front, I just took a deep dive for the first time ever on Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants.
Plants.
Oh boy.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
Mhm.
You know, the pop market was not ready for that. It's mind blowing. It's fantastic.
Mhm.
You know, if you go to that album looking for Songs in Key of Life Part 2, no, you're gonna be disappointed. It's amazing.
He had a good run then. He had a real good run then.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't over. I think he. Well, can I
Go
add
ahead.
to that story?
Yeah.
Because this subject came up again. I don't know why Prince would we'd run into each other in the hallway, or I'd be sitting in the lounge, and he just it seemingly random. He's like, "What do you think would have happened if?" He said, "What do you think Stevie Wonder was thinking when he put out Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants right after the biggest record that Motown ever?" I mean, Songs in the Key of Life debuted at #1. It's a double album. No other Motown artist did that. And very few artists at all.
Mhm.
You know. He said, "Do you think he was just on an artistic trajectory that he couldn't run from? He had to take this next step. You know, like he just like what do you think about, you know, that record as a work and following, you know, the biggest record of his career, you know, at least at that time."
Right.
And it just like, I think that he had a true vision, and he just decided he was going to move straight through it, you know. And I come to find out, I mean, I since then that it was a soundtrack for a movie.
Mhm.
And so that made, and that Stevie was he just wanted, it was just an experiment.
Mm.
Like they asked him to do it, and he went, "Yeah, okay, I'll try it." And they play the clips, you know, and the audio, you know, and he just, I mean, the whole thing is predicated on the movie. Really, it wasn't like Stevie had a psychotic break. He just took a project that was a different challenge for him,
Mhm.
you know. But in my mind and in Prince's mind, it's like there's mysticism involved here. Like,
Right.
like, what did Stevie, and I believe really that there's mysticism involved in that prodigious run of records in the 70s where Stevie could do no wrong.
Right.
I mean, as a kid, how many does everybody remember when Stevie Wonder was in that accident?
I learned about that later on. I didn't realize it in real time.
He liked to ride in the passenger side in the front seat when he was on tour, and it had to have been like 1970 or 71. I'm thinking maybe it was later, but they were behind a logging truck, and a log came off and came through the windshield and hit Stevie on the head. You can see the scar even now.
Oh, wow.
There's a scar on his forehead that's kind of, and Stevie was in a coma. I remember my sisters like huddling around the radio because they were like, "Is Stevie Wonder going to die?" And he woke up out of that coma and was like, "Take me to the studio, like no time to lose." And I remember talking about this at rehearsal with actually Morris, and I think Prince might have been there. Tommy for sure, because we were both talking about it. Like, man, yeah, I was like scared. Like, what's gonna happen to Stevie as a kid, And Sonny said, because and I said, yeah, apparently he woke up and just went right to work. Sonny finally says something. He says he wasn't in a coma. He was visiting other civilizations.
Oh.
I don't know what made Sonny say that.
Wow.
But the vibration ran through me like, you're probably right. Who writes music in a coma?
Interesting.
Who wakes up and goes, get me to the keyboard right now? I'm just saying, I believe there's a mysticism that surrounds that run. He woke up and you couldn't stop him. Like what? Talking book, Intervisions, Fulfilling This First Finale, Songs in the Key of Life. Like, I mean, arguably the most prodigious run of the 70s was Stevie.
Arguably.
Yeah.
Right.
Music of my mind. Music of my mind. Yeah. Yes, I don't think anybody could argue, but I'm saying that it was almost like a supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Salute to Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
If you haven't got to that yet, youngins, please do.
And there's songs. I think there's songs on Secret Life of Plants that, I mean, wasn't "Send One Your Love" a single?
Yes, it was.
"Send One." You were saying that Prince would put those nuggets on there in case they didn't like what he was doing. he always had a track that would get you. That was Stevie's "Get You" track on Secret Life of Plants. I'm pretty sure it was a single. Yeah.
Prince would get you songs on the backs of things. The B-sides were his getches for Prince. She's always in my hair.
Erotic City.
They're gonna bring you back. But
he had heat. I mean, the whole album
knows I haven't left you. Here's some good stuff for you.
Well, some of that also, Duane, what I came to understand, and I'll give you this little tidbit that 777-9311 is actually somebody brought it up one time, and Prince was like, I wrote that song because I had just heard Glide by Pleasure. He heard Glide and was like, oh, y'all gonna do that? Well, wait a minute,
to me, a lot of his songs, I would imagine, seem like they play like that. Those early songs that are funk like that, because I feel like, I can see him. He's doing like some kind of Gap Bandish type of thing, or this, but it's just with his stamp on it, his sort of version of it. A lot of Sly stuff. It sounds like he's doing his sort of interpretations of it.
I thought. Oh God, the song I thought was sounded like Jack and Jill from Radio. Oh God, it was on Diamonds and Pearls.
Wow. There's a song on Diamonds and Pearls that reminds you of a Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah,
song?
I have to think about what that was. But there was a song that made me think about. Let me think about this for a
Walk,
second.
don't walk.
No, I
No?
have to look. Let me look at my notes real quick. But there was a song that every time I
Well, that's
hear
right. Dwayne got notes.
I know, right?
Well, Duane came prepared. God.
I can't remember what it was. Let me see if I got. Let me see if I have my notes here. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, but what I was going to actually say was that I remember him saying about "She's Always in My Hair." It was like, yeah, that was like the last blast of that. He's like, I had it laying around, it was funky, it was like he was just in the mood, like, yeah, let it out,
Interesting.
Glide was the jam back then too. Damn, that
Yeah.
bass player was funky. Woo.
Nathaniel something, I can't remember his name. That drummer was. I used to get people used to confuse me with the drummer in Pleasure. His name was Bruce Carter. He was a big boy too, and we actually kind of played. We sounded the same. I finally met him at the World Music Awards in 1994. He was playing with Kenny G, who we gave the hairy eyeball as he went past our dressing room, just because we were being kind of not so nice that day. Like, oh, look who this is! It was like we were a street gang, like standing out front of our dressing room, and
I'll give him pressure to Kenny G.
And,
the least gangster person in the game.
Look who's coming! Look who this is here!
Take his milk money.
Yeah, almost. And he just kind of was like, "Oh, hey guys, yeah, no, I don't know why we."
You can take the
it was a
out
moment,
there, but you can't take.
Well, yeah, but not only that, it was like at that time, most musicians thought he was destroying everything.
Right.
So, and that was before he even. I think that was even before he did that thing where he like redid "What a Wonderful World" with Louis Armstrong's original track, and like, dude, that's he had it coming, Dean. If that was in his mind to do at the time,
but he was, if I'm not mistaken, why do I feel like Kenny G is a Seattle guy?
You're probably right, but he started with Kashif and Jeff Lorber and them.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's an
That's
interview
all right.
with Pat Metheny on Questlove. Pat is looking for Kenny G. He made it real clear. He is not a fan.
Yeah, Kenny G is a Seattle guy. I had to say
That kind of looking.
Oh, yes. Pat Metheny's like, I'm looking for him. Like, damn, Pat, calm
You
down.
better pray I don't find Pat Metheny. Yeah, with the
Pat
smooth
Metheny.
tone.
Yes. Pat Metheny was not having any of it.
Don't let the smooth tone fool you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that Pat Metheny was upset. I didn't know you could make him upset.
Oh, he was pissed. He was pissed.
All right,
Duane, what you got, man? Mr. I have notes.
I can't find it.
Okay.
Couldn't find no receipts.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right.
You guys, sorry.
You're on your app. You're on your Apollonia. That was a joke.
I've forgotten it.
What?
I've forgotten it.
All right.
The conversation's pretty much run its course. I mean,
I was gonna say, I think we've kind of come into the end.
What did
of
we
our
decide?
thing here.
I guess we didn't really have an answer. It's just a matter of how you look at it.
My decision is I'm gonna have some of this brisket that Bland's bringing in.
Oh,
that's
but my wife got down there and she's like, "There's a long line. How long do you want me to wait?" I'm like, as long as you feel to wait. Like, there are other options, but Big Larry, this is Big Larry's last Sunday for a hot minute. He's got the special where you get all the sides.
Save the audience because they
with
were
the one
going out
meat.
of context realms. They have no idea what you're talking
Who's
about.
Big Larry?
I forgot this stuff.
Big Larry, the drummer from Sounds of Blackness. He's got a food truck in Minneapolis. It's Big Larry's food truck. Washington and 24th, like downtown, near the what do they call it?
Lord.
It's gonna be
near the Holiday Station. That's it. By the freeway.
Where's my ad promo?
Y'all know it.
I need a free brisket when I come to town. Man.
Exactly.
Big Larry.
I was just up in Minneapolis last weekend.
He's a good drummer.
I was up in Minneapolis last weekend. I would have known if I'd known I'd done that.
Really?
Yeah, I was just up there.
Oh, that's right. What did you come up for, though? You did say.
I came up there for a book signing. Susan Rogers and I were doing a book signing up there.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun.
Let's go back to our question before we go off.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
So Duane, what's your final? Do you think he was?
I think both. I think both. Okay. I think like anything Prince did, he's a Gemini. and he's going to have both sides of this. So yes, he was an individual rebel within the confines of what he could do. I mean, I think that he was an independent indie guy, but I think he was as much of an indie guy as he could be within the corporation, and then did it by himself. So I think it's both.
Michael B.
And I call that the answer, so nobody can say
Right.
both other than me.
That's cool. I mean, I really, from my perspective, he was just the priority was I'm going to be true to myself, which means I don't really care what happens to the business, you know. And I think he proved that when he just ended the Purple Rain tour, after a few months, and just said, okay, you know, to leave that much money on the table.
Yeah, Springsteen did like 2 years for Born in the USA.
Right. Metallica did like 4 years for the Black Album.
Yeah, exactly.
So to me, it's like, I think he just, the plan from the get-go was I'm gonna pimp the system and do what I want to do.
Mhm.
So I'm saying all rebel, all rebel, like pimps got mean sides and they got sweet sides. They know when to talk sweet to the woman, but they also know when they need to just, I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to get me too.
Hilarious.
Smart.
But no, I think not only a rebel, but he kept his pimp hand strong.
Wow.
Hustler.
Yeah, I got to say that was a gangster to me. I'm just gonna do what I want, and you can say what you want, but you're not gonna stop me.
I think Neil Young did the same kind of thing, where he would do one album and just decide to change it up and join Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young for a bit. Same kind of thing, where it's just like, I'm going to go where my whim is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you have the last word on this, Big Sexy, but I'm gonna say I kind of agree with Michael Bland. I think he was more of I actually don't see him as an indie person. I see him as a hustler in a good way. Like you said, he's doing what he wants to do, but I also felt like he became more business minded, not necessarily doing things on a whim per se. I think even it seemed like it was a whim, was calculated moves on his part. And I thought he was very smart about some of the things he did later in the moves. But I always saw him as a very much a business minded. He wanted to make sure he was going to get paid, and did things that would get him the money. I think majority of his career was based off of that than it was doing sort of these odd sort of things. I think artistically he was all over the place, but I think in terms of how he conducted his business of Prince, pure businessman, didn't want to get cheated out. And lastly, I would say he had sort of an older black man's mindset that I got to own my business. He had been raised to know that we're supposed to own shit. And I thought he seemed to work towards that. So that's my opinion.
I was not aware that hustler was one of our answers we could use. So
well, yeah.
That's okay. I mean, it was not. I just wanted to put the question forward because I think it's worthwhile to consider. I think that well, anyway, we're wrapping it up.
Yeah,
Big Sexy, go say your piece, man. I'm interested to know.
I think a true indie person is someone like Ani DeFranco, Fiona Apple, early Nine Inch Nails, stuff like that. Michael Dean put it perfectly. Prince was independent, but he was calculating. He always had a plan. I'm going to do my thing, but you're going to do it with me. Okay. It wasn't ever anything. It was never about I'm doing it and fuck all y'all. It was like, no, I'm going to do it, but you're going to come with me. And then when it needed to be bigger to get a taste of that, Madonna, Springsteen, Michael money, he's like, okay, I can do that too. Okay, I've done this. I'm out. I'm going back to where I do my thing. And you can see it, especially the last 15 years or so of his life, because again, Michael Dean and I will talk about this. There'd be the big stadium tour. I would not go. There'd be the club tour for like $300 a head. I'm there. Right down front. So yeah. Oh yeah, he was definitely.
And he knew to play those hits at that big show.
Yes,
like, I'm not going to be no rebel. I'm trying to get my bag. What are you talking about?
Let me get this money. Yeah.
Well, sometimes that was a contractual obligation.
Okay.
A lot of the time, they would. I mean, I'll tell you what, and I don't mean to go off the track, but the Purple medley, that was his consolation to meet his contract, on tour, without having to play all those songs in their entirety.
Not interesting.
Oh,
That's one of the reasons.
I know the story. What is that? Tell me.
The Purple medley was something we played
Yeah.
on the Gold Experience, I think.
Okay.
I think we played the Purple. That was a feat in and of itself, just programming, because the thing went for like 8 minutes, and we had program changes, and
Wow.
I mean, we had to figure out how to make it happen, because he was not going to go out there and play, Raspberry Beret. He wasn't gonna do it like he had done it before, but he still needed to honor his contract. And the promoters would say, "You have to play these songs," and this was his way of getting around it.
Wow.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen.
Put the hits in medley form, and then you can't say I didn't play it.
That's the same mindset to the guy that would say, "Are you going to do the Sign of Times tour?" No, we're going to give him the movie.
Give him a movie.
Yes, and the same guy when I asked him, "When are we going to tour the United States after Arsenio Hall?" He said, "We just played in 50 million people's house. We just toured the United States." The same guy, and that's what I'm saying is
That's
that
the hustler.
it was, because it does cost money to go on tour.
Sure.
But for the rest of us, I never got the gratification of touring the States on the biggest record of my run with Prince. We did Australia, Europe, and Japan. That was it. I didn't get to see my own people. I didn't get to gloat. I didn't get to bring it to Chicago.
Yeah.
The way I wanted. We kind of did on the Act One tour.
Sure.
That was the consolation prize. Was we went out and played that entire record, and then we came back out and just did. I mean, that was unimpeachable to me. That tour, the Act One tour, was like everything.
All right. I don't know. We cut into you a little bit there, Big Sexy. And if you have
No.
Right.
I got it all out.
Okay, you got it all out, and everybody get it all out. Because my
your brisket, his brisket must be there because he's like, damn this, Mike. I'll take control of this guy.
My wife just eased in here and gently set the bag down. She went.
Let's see the bag. Let's see the bag.
You want to see the bag?
The neck bones came in, boy.
I'll show you the bag, but
I look like a chitlins.
Can I get a logo? Come on, man.
Nothing.
That was a tease. There's no. This is that man. There's no logo or nothing.
He's branding. He's trying to think.
Oh, man. Big picture.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope y'all had a great time. Thank you, Michael Bland, for coming through. Duane, y'all actually, the idea started with y'all, so thank you guys so much, you two gentlemen. Big Sexy, sir, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. Go support everything these brothers are doing out here. Go get the new version of the book, right? Duane just came out.
Oh, I happen to have it right here.
There he is. Branding.
Ta-da!
See? Branding. See, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. It's a food truck on the north side.
And what's the name of the food truck again? Let's give him
Big Larry's food truck.
Big Larry.
There it is.
Hustle.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know what? We could have Larry on the show one time.
Hey,
we'll get him on for 5 minutes.
Send me a brisket.
Well, we'll see what can be done.
All right, we out of here. Work it like a job. We'll see y'all next time. Peace. All right. Woo.
Okay, are we recording still?